The ongoing government shutdown represents a profound failure of the annual appropriations process, crippling federal operations and generating economic instability. Triggered by the expiration of funding on October 1st, the closure has placed hundreds of thousands of federal employees on furlough, halted non-essential services, and created widespread anxiety among military families. At its core, this shutdown is not merely a technical glitch, but a high-stakes political conflict, utilizing the necessity of basic government funding as leverage to achieve contentious policy goals. The primary negotiating point is healthcare. Specifically, Senate Democrats are insisting on the permanent extension of Enhanced Affordable Care Act, ACA, tax credits, and the reversal of recent Medicaid cuts, while the Republican-controlled House and the White House demand a clean, continuing resolution CR to reopen the government first before negotiating policy issues. This political entrenchment, marked by a refusal to negotiate while services are suspended, ensures the crisis deepens daily, transforming a legislative disagreement into a national welfare issue. Reasons: the roots of partisan gridlock. The immediate reason for the shutdown is the failure of Congress to pass 12 individual appropriations bills or agree on a short-term continuing resolution, CR, before the start of the fiscal year. However, the root causes are structural and political. Structurally, the budget process is inherently vulnerable to shutdown due to the requirement for supermajorities, 60 votes, to advance spending legislation in the Senate. This rule grants disproportionate power to the minority party to block funding unless its demands are met. Politically, the current conflict is driven by deep ideological division. The Democratic demands are tied to protecting and expanding landmark healthcare legislation, reflecting a core party commitment, while the Republican side views the shutdown as an opportunity to secure spending reductions and dismantle parts of the ACA, aligning with their long-term objectives. The willingness of both sides to use the livelihoods of federal workers and military personnel as leverage highlights an environment where political brinkmanship is valued above governing stability. Consequences: military pay and federal layoffs. The most immediate and severe consequences are felt by the federal workforce and, crucially, the nation's service members. Military pay was initially threatened, with active duty personnel poised to miss their mid-month paychecks, a devastating prospect for many military families who rely on that income stream to cover housing and essential expenses. In response, the President directed the Department of Defense to tap into all available funds, specifically repurposing research and development dollars, to ensure the October 15th payroll is met. While this action temporarily spared service members from immediate financial distress, it is a short-term fix that drains funding from other defense priorities and does not guarantee subsequent paychecks if the shutdown continues. In contrast to the stopgap solution for the military, the consequence for civilian federal workers has been more severe. Hundreds of thousands of non-accepted employees were immediately furloughed, while accepted personnel, those essential for protecting life and property, like TSA agents and Border Patrol officers, are forced to work without pay. Further escalating the crisis, the administration announced a plan to initiate mass federal layoffs, reduction in force, or REFs, across various departments. These layoffs, uncommon in typical shutdowns, create massive uncertainty, paralyze agency functions, and risk permanently losing institutional expertise. While federal workers are historically granted back pay upon resolution, the mass firings, coupled with recent suggestions by the administration that retroactive pay is not guaranteed, inflict profound economic anxiety and undermine morale throughout the federal government. Prediction and solutions. The prediction for a swift resolution is grim, as both sides remain entrenched and believe the political risk lies with compromise. The temporary fix for military pay removed a critical pressure point that might have otherwise forced action. Therefore, the shutdown is likely to extend well into the coming weeks, potentially until one side faces overwhelming negative public opinion and breaks ranks. To prevent this recurring cycle, structural solutions are necessary. The most frequently proposed legislative reform is the implementation of an automatic continuing resolution, ACR. Under this system, if Congress fails to pass appropriations bills by the deadline, funding would automatically continue at the previous year's level, adjusted for inflation, until a deal is reached. This mechanism removes the threat of a shutdown, the core tool of leverage, while preserving the constitutional requirement for Congress to pass spending bills. Furthermore, reform efforts should focus on simplifying the appropriations process itself, perhaps by consolidating the 12 separate bills, or implementing a no-budget, no-pay rule that withholds congressional salaries during a funding lapse. Ultimately, only by disarming the threat of shutdown can Congress be incentivized to focus on responsible budgeting rather than political warfare.